Network.
I want to lose. I want to win.
I need professional help.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Sports Betting Weekly is sponsored by EasySportsData.com. The books use data. Shouldn't you too? And this is Easy Sports Data, like the preschoolers use. EasySportsData.com.
I win here and I win there. Now what?
Sports Betting Weekly.
I want to win.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
You should also check out SportsBettingLessons.com. You'll learn some old tricks because sometimes how you bet is more important than who you bet. SportsBettingLessons.com.
Let's just do it. Let's meet this thing head on. And you were in it to win it. Talk about an education.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Wow, winning.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Welcome to Sports Betting Weekly. I am second half Gav. We've got Blackhawk West from 150. John from Jim Songs. And we have I sent out a post right before the show that people, John, I think, is on the I Don't Bet Preseason football. Somebody's got a let me see. Mute that. There we go. John, that was you. So we've got preseason football, but the bottom line is really the way we bet, guys, is we look for opportunities, and that's why I was talking to Wes while we were in the green room how the summer was an incredible run of sitting around and looking for opportunities. We knew what we liked going in, and just because you don't bet a preseason game doesn't mean you don't have a clue of what's going on, especially if you're a sports fan. So let's go out, first of all, to Blackhawk West. Blackhawk, we're starting a new show. You're going to cover Canadian football for us.
I'm thrilled to do it. I love the CFL. Hey,
you're good at it, too. That's the thing. You know what? The only reason we're doing it is because you're good at it, man. You're good at it.
Well, it's fun to watch. It really is. And when college football shows up, you know, that's fun as well. But CFL is just a different game. So I'm looking tonight. The game doesn't start until 8:30 Eastern time. But we're looking at Calgary against BC. And the spreads moved around a little bit. What we saw last week with this CFL is these spreads move around a lot because I think that it takes a little to move a line versus what it would take like in the NFL or even a Monday Night Football game. But I'm going with Calgary, and it was -6.5 when I played it, and you might be able to find that somewhere else. But last weekend it was all dogs with 2 dog outright wins. But I like Calgary laying the 6.5 here. Against BC. I don't think Calgary is going to go over in the second half the same way that Sask did to let them back in the game. Bo Levi Mitchell for Calgary, I've said it for years. He's the one CFL quarterback I would love to see play in the NFL. I just think his style and he can be very Tom Brady-esque the way that he just moves down the field. So I love Calgary laying the 6.5 tonight.
Well, we'll talk about the rest of the schedule later on in the show because we're following it for our Easy Sports data, and we'll be putting out data. And we're going to talk a little bit what it's like. I mean, there's 3 games tonight. I have action in all 3 games, yet there was no data from last year to look at. And that's kind of a surreal little world that we're in. However, those little bets in the beginning, right, John? Then you come back with the live action from twice as much, and you win, and you're good. Oh, did I mute you? Hold on a minute. My bad. Unmute mic. Unmute mic. Is your mic mute on your end, John?
Yeah. I'm in. I got mine. I got some background noise, so that's why.
Yeah, no worries. When you talk, we'll deal with it. But
I got you.
That's what I'm talking about. We talked about, we're going to be doing the show on Saturday. It's going to be a lot of different things. We'll play off how that impacts Thursday because, I don't necessarily want to cover the same stuff twice, but you don't really have to. The way we do Thursdays is we come in with a idea of what we think is going to happen, and then we see what really happens, and we deal with it accordingly. Isn't that what we do every week? John, talking.
That's it. You have to pick and choose your advantages and learn when to get in. And if you're eyeing a certain spot, there's always kind of better opportunities throughout the game. So even if you took something previously, maybe throw a little bit more on it, or maybe if you kind of waited to see if you got a better line and you did get a better line, guess what? Now you're playing the game better. That's what sports investing is all about. You put yourself in a great position, a great opportunity to get the better line in that spot. So, yeah.
You still liked them. You liked them at -7. Now you like them at -2.5 for sure, right? That's kind of how you look at it.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what it said. And you keep building. And it's all about bankroll management. And, Wes has preached that. And I'm sure all of his guys know that. And the same thing with my guys, too. Managing your bankroll, knowing when to not only fire their units, but those half units and the quarter units and keep going, because those adds up throughout the game. And once again, this is all about value, guys. This is all about sports investing, not necessarily gambling, knowing when to put your money in at the right time. And that's the difference if you want to truly make it long term.
So what about the picture you sent? You sent us a picture from the book. You were somewhere watching baseball, right?
Oh, yeah. We were watching some baseball, or early morning baseball, and we were getting ready for the late night games today.
Did you have action on the game you were watching?
Early morning, yes. We had the Cardinals early morning, which was a little stressful because it got stressful late. But I just felt that Cardinals was a good game to play early. Tonight for MLB, we passed on everything, even though I'm rooting for the Yankees. But, yeah, we passed on the MLB. Right now, MLB gets tricky. If you haven't noticed, the books have adjusted. So they already know who the favorites are. They already know who's in the playoffs. They already know who wants to improve. And if you're following baseball, you can see these lines jump up. These lines have been over 200, 230, 240, 250. So there's not a lot of wiggle room if you're playing, straight bets for that.
That's for teams that are like 9 games over 500. Why? If you're 9 games over 500, you're not that good.
Yeah,
you're not a 245 team,
Exactly. I noticed that even with, some of the Oakland A's games, or even, just even the Padres. You see some crazy, crazy, crazy odds. And those are the games where you kind of look at it and you're like, you want to know what? I'm going to pass. There's no value. So, once again, that's the kind of things that you learn when you're better. Kind of stay away and keep an eye on it. Maybe there might be some in-game opportunities.
Right. What I've been doing, and not necessarily betting like I was, I gave baseball about 6 weeks of my life just because I was doing the data more than anything, just to see if it worked. And it worked great, but it's just, it's a lot of work, and I like football better. But the team total aspect is still there. So I've had some of those. I'm just paying attention. You just see it. You could see when a team's not hitting, and you can't be afraid to say under 4.5. 4.5 seems like nothing nowadays, but when a team's not hitting and they ain't got 3 runs in 9 straight games, or they maybe scored 4-1 and it's 4.5, that's what I look for. And then you're getting odds that are so much better. Like mine, minus 130 is really a big time high number right on a team total. You don't see it much higher than that unless you're live, and then there's 9 of them, which of course we've done as well. It's kind of weird having 10. I had that one where I don't know what happened. It just got crazy, and I cashed from 3.5 on up. I only had till 10.5, but it went up to like 14. So 11.5, 12.5, and 13.5 would have cashed. But like we talked about with Wes's system, you don't just keep chasing, because at some point in time, every train ends, So Wes, let's talk a little bit about what's happening with you and preseason. Will you watch it? Will you look at it? Will you jump in? Do you have any plans to bet?
Preseason, it's just not a viable investment option, and normally I'm always able to lean on that because I have that CFL, so that's where my attention and my action goes. This year's a little bit different because the CFL we've gone a full calendar year without having it, so these first couple games, they feel a little bit different, and it's going to take a minute. I probably got into it a little bit too heavy than I should have. But normally at this time of year, there's no reason for me to be paying attention to the MLB and these weird line movements that John's talking about. And there's really no reason for me to take a chance on a 4-string quarterback that we might not even know his name tomorrow. Probably don't even know his name today on the NFL, because CFL at this point, we're normally like right around week 10, 12, and so CFL is got a proven track record. And if this was 2019, that easy sports data for the CFL, I mean, that's a very smart tool at this point because it's got quite a bit of data. So I look at it. I care about my teams. I obviously I'm from Chicago, so I'm a Bears fan. I live in KC, so I am a Chiefs fan. So I want to know who's going to be there. After the Super Bowl, I surely want to know what the new O-line looks like in Mahomes and those kind of things. But that's just being a fan. I don't look at it as a legitimate source of income or investing, and I would just far rather throw the money at the CFL, and that's kind of where I leave it. I'm not really even looking too heavy into the horses right now.
As you mentioned, the CFL normally would be rocking and rolling right now, where you would have a real good feel for what's happening. And again, it's a couple of years now, so it must have been maybe 2017, 18 when you started. Let me know your CF plays, and they were not at that point live action plays yet, if I remember correctly. It really wasn't until I think very last year, 19, that they were some live action plays. But that's how the sports books do it as the sports betting evolves, right? They offer more opportunities and more options. And like I talked about as we came on, I hopped on New England team total over tonight. And the reason is simple. I'm just playing organizational trends at this point. If a team has done something 7 of the last 8 games on the road and it's in the preseason, that's 4 years of data, man. 4 years. And so that's telling me that the ownership or the coach or the organization's philosophy is, hey, you know what? We're going balls to the walls and we're scoring, or we're not scoring, or we're not going to worry about anything and get guys hurt. Whatever the logic is, they get you all those U's or all those W's or all those L's. And that's it, right, guys. There's 4 letters I care about. L, O, W, and U. It's really, that's it. W one I like much, but don't get me wrong. You get L's, you get L's. The U-O thing, there's really, it's an opinion. It really is an opinion. All right, so where are we at? We talked about the preseason. We talked about, so we didn't really talk about the show. So John, I'm going to ask you if you have any of these memories in your brain that I have, which is outside multiple sports books in my career where the smell of marijuana was overpowering and it still wasn't legal in Las Vegas yet. Do you have any of those memories?
Yeah, we were kind of leading up to that point here in Las Vegas where just they kind of expected it to be. And obviously, ever since it got legal, you could almost smell it still almost into the sports book to this day somehow, because the draft will make it go that way. It is legal in Las Vegas. We have adopted that. We have multiple dispensaries here. But yeah, it's been leading up to that. I would probably say almost up to the year prior to legalization. It was still kind of, I don't want to say a taboo thing, but people were still kind of openly doing it. This is a city of sin, and they call it the city of sin for a reason. So yeah, so if you were smoking weed, even when it wasn't legal on the street, the people in Las Vegas, the cops in Las Vegas, wasn't really doing anything to you except, hey, put that out,
Yeah, they weren't like sitting on the steps smoking a big spliff while making the customers walk around them or anything, but it was pretty powerful. So that's one of the main reasons we're excited about Wake and Bake. John, there's a good chunk of the world that has no idea how early 9 o'clock is Saturday morning to watch college football. It really is. Now, you've got kids. When you're super younger, a little easier. You might be up for an hour and a half already, because your kids are up. But when you get older and your kids are out the door or you're by yourself and it's just you, if you party really hard, because Friday night, what time? The clubs close, right? 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they go to 3, 4. There's some of them even open 24 hours if you wanted to do all that in Las Vegas. So if you wanted to go the all-nighter, that's not very good for waking up on a Saturday morning. But, yeah, when we get here Saturday morning, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. You have to be ready to hit the books. And honestly, if you're betting, you got to get to the book before 9 o'clock in the morning, because if you ever been to a sports book in Las Vegas on a Saturday or a Sunday, the crowd is way, way different in September than it is compared to right now. Right now, there's a lot of room. You don't have to worry about fighting through the line. If you've been to a sports book anywhere in Las Vegas, this doesn't matter if you're on the Strip or if you're at a local casino, there are tons and tons of people there. So you got to get there at least a half an hour before any game starts. So that's 8:30 in the morning.
Yeah. Then again, you got to wake up. If you're hungover, you got to do something. Whether you wake and bake or you pop a cold one. Whether the classics, the Bloody Marys, the screwdrivers, those things. That's what you see them pouring. The girls are walking around with trays of those at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Bloody Marys is a staple in my book. That's the way I go. So,
all right. So let's look at the NFL because I do have a play. I have the over in the Patriots game. And let's see what it is. 18.5 is what I have. It's 3-0. So it looks like the Patriots have a field goal, but they're already into the second quarter. So in that respect, I would rather have more. And the Eagles are beating the Steelers 10-0. On that game, I thought that those teams probably would have a rivalry, would they not, John?
Yeah, it's kind of the state of Pennsylvania. Those guys kind of have a hidden rivalry. They don't really play each other, but there's going to be some pride, obviously, in that between interstate rivals and stuff like that. Kind of similar to when Giants play the Jets. You kind of get that rivalry going. So regardless, even if it's in the preseason or in the regular season, little shocked at that because Steelers obviously had a game, so they were able to knock the rust off last week, so to speak. So we'll see how it goes. So
we will be watching them for the second half. Patriots just kicked another field goal to go up 6-0. We'll be watching the second half. We had Steelers in the second half last week against Dallas because Dallas doesn't score. So that's the other thing. Again, when you see nothing but W's or nothing but L's, one after another, 5 out of 6, 6 out of 7, 7 in a row, 8 out of 9. It's hard to not think there's something that's happened. I mean, it's just not an accident. The book's not going, hey, you know what, for that team, let's make the total a little higher so they get a U. That's not how it works, But it is preseason, so I see Joe Flacco's name. Wes, did you know Joe Flacco is throwing for the Eagles?
It's like you could read my mind because I was just looking at that too, and that's a great move for them to get a veteran into that quarterback room. It looks like he's 5 of 6 now, and he just threw a touchdown. But I don't know what that means that he's playing right now because typically the guy that they aren't going to be starting day one is the guy that they throw out there to take the hits right now. So I don't know if Flacco's going to be their starter or what, but he's got some good stats right now. And the Eagles are kind of a team where for the fans' sake, they really need to score points and they need to look somewhat decent in the preseason because they really did not have a great year last year. So in this game and really the rest of preseason, the Eagles might be a team you latch onto and just look at to both score points and win games, even winning games as dogs. It's just a fan base that needs to gain some type of confidence after this past season.
Well, yeah, you're going to see a lot of scrappy play, I think, from Philadelphia. Not only because you would assume Jalen Hurts is probably going to be the number one, barring any injury. But they made some pickups. They made some transitions on defense and offense. They also have a new coach. So you got to think there's some motivation here. And we all know Philadelphia is similar to New York. That is a tough town, a very tough town when you're bad at football. Believe me, these fans are going to get on the team. They don't want to be on the cover of the newspapers, the back page of the newspapers. So there's definitely some motivation, I feel, from the Philadelphia end to kind of pick this up a little bit because, they don't want to hear it's a rebuilding year in Philadelphia. They don't want to hear that. They want to hear we have a team now, we're ready to compete. And I think it all starts in preseason. And I'm like you, Wes. I think they're going to start picking up the pace here.
It's funny because we deal with a lot of the fantasies on the other networks, Sports Podcast Network with, Saturday night, the show I do with Dan and Chris. Even on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, a lot of fantasy guys. Well, the bottom line is it'd be a tough year if you have an Eagles quarterback the last 2 or 3 years in fantasy. I mean, that quarterback room had some turnover, hasn't it, Wes?
It has, and not just the turnover, the uncertainty of who's playing, the injury. Carson Wentz is playing, but then he's injured. They have the Nick Foles from the Super Bowl, then traded off. And then, then there was that game where Jalen Hurts got pulled but should have finished the game because gave him a better chance of winning. So just, you're right, turnover, but just odd business and confusion in that quarterback room. And just weird stuff going on there that just is uncharacteristic of Philly. And really, it's since Andy Reid is gone. They thought the grass was greener. You see what I did there? Green Philadelphia Eagles. I laugh at my own jokes. But KC won that trade, that move with Andy Reid.
4 sections. The first section is in no particular order because we don't have anything yet. We just got the shows. It's going to be, of course, U.S. doing the Canadian football. And again, it's 6:30 tonight. You like Calgary, you said, right?
I do like Calgary. The spread was 6.5 when I hit it. It's now 7.5. And Bo Levi Mitchell, the way that he plays the quarterback position, he belongs in the NFL. Towards the end of the game, he picked it up, and Calgary's not going to let BC back into the game the way that BC came on real late last week. I think last week Sask let off the gas, and Nathan Rourke is starting for BC. It's confirmed. He's a second-string quarterback out of Ohio, fifth-year senior. It feels like it's seventh-year senior, Nathan Rourke. But I do like Calgary laying the 6.5. I think they needed last week to shake off some dust. But they're running the ball well, and that's a difficult thing to do in the CFL just because it's only a 3-down game. But I will say something that I noticed last week, and so everybody has a different unit, but with the CFL, be very careful because we talk bankroll management. Your unit pregame may not get accepted as live action. So pick a unit that you're confident is going to get accepted. If you got rejected on a wager last week, mid-game, that's because there's limits on the dollar amount live action, specifically with the CFL. And you'll see lines move a lot more. It takes less to move the line. So if your unit, I'm just throwing a number out there, if your unit's $1, please don't expect that same dollar wager to get accepted mid-game. You're probably looking at 30 cents to the dollar in the live action plays. So I say that because if you're gonna bring yourself back from a potential mistake, you won't be able to do it if you're relying on that same unit.
It ain't going to happen that easy. Exactly.
No.
And really, that's a house advantage. Just another house advantage. I mean, whether they don't have lines, it's a house advantage. When they take the game off the board, it's a house advantage. They're all house advantages, but unless you're going to, want to bet against your buddy, and if you keep beating your buddy, sooner or later your buddy's going to say, I'm not doing that anymore. So that's going to be one of the segments. Now, we've talked about Powell. Let me tell you, of all the sports where live action is powerful, it's without a doubt soccer. And the reason is so few goals are scored. But when they are scored late, they are very, very powerful. And Paolo does it. So we're a global conglomerate. What happens is Paolo's in Canada. So, he might be talking, eventually being guest on the CFL segment too, because he's up there and they've got for the first time individual games that they can bet. They used to have to do just parlays. But we're also talking about the amount of action that happens in Europe, and Greece is where his bets are played. So he's calling from Canada. We're in the United States, but he's betting in Greece, and he's called from Greece before he just can't go back to Greece because COVID is kind of stuck in Canada. The bottom line is, though, he's just a great handicapper. Now, sure, a lot of the plays he gives are just big. They're like what John was talking about. They're more than that. They're like 340, 320. But that's what we do. We do the small play, and if they hit, they hit. Almost always. You just got to be patient. The better team almost always wins in sports. Not always, but almost always. It's not like in horse racing, Wes, right? You can have the better horse, but what happens if he gets kicked in the head, right, by another horse? Doesn't do you a bit of good. So we're really excited about that. Of course, Mo's coming on because for what? It's been my 8th season. This is my 8th season. The Easy Sports Date has been with me from the get-go. It's actually everything else is because of the Easy Sports Data that we do, because it's just been such a powerful tool to help me cash tickets. And I think it's because we're betting on human beings, and human beings do what human beings do. You got brothers, you got sisters, you got family members, you got kids, you got adults, you got cousins, people you work with. People that do what they do are going to do what they do. And you could work with them for 30 years. They're going to do it. That's what they do. So that's what I think the data does. It helps find these human beings that are consistently doing the same thing. And we highlight it. But what do you do when Philadelphia's coming in and they're over in 7 straight, and the Eagles are coming in and they're under in 7 straight? Something's got to give is that situation. And what we're going to do is we're going to reach out to Mo, who's as knowledgeable and really that 15-0 streak he had through about 4 weeks in the NFL is still something I think about all the time. He was on fire. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk to him about a few of those. And then, of course, finally, Wake and Bake. Wake and Bake will be the last thing we talk about, because as soon as we go off the air, we're going to hopefully have a sponsor box in the break room that this marijuana company sponsors a set, because you know what? There is nothing better than watching football on a Saturday morning in America. If I had a button for the Star-Spangled Banner, I'd be playing it right now. John, you live in Vegas. Don't you love Saturday mornings?
There is probably Saturday and Sundays when we get to that time, September, October, November. Those are the 2 mornings where you just love. Everybody loves waking up early. You wake up early. There's action at the sports books. There's people all around. And I think this year, especially because kind of everything's getting back into a full swing. So we're going to see everybody happy to have sports.
John, you don't have to go every single Saturday and Sunday morning to get your bets. And you do a lot of your stuff and just go to watch games and bet.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I do probably, I would say 85 to 90%. But there's something, I don't know, call me old school, whatever, about going to the sports book, going up to that window, getting that ticket and getting that ticket.
You see my tickets from Delmar Saturday that I got to cash?
Exactly,
you see that?
Put you ticket in front of you. You got to look down at it about 25 times to make sure you got the right line. And then at halftime, you're looking at it and you want to make sure it's in your pocket. And there's no greater feeling than that. Like I said, and then not only that, the best part about it is when you win, because guess what? You get to walk right back up to that window, and there's no greater feeling. It's like you're on The Price is Right, and you're running up to the window just like everybody else, and you're high-fiving everybody on the line because everybody's winning.
Oh, it's so true. You make friends so fast in a sports book if you got the same action.
Everybody loves each other. We're all happy, and then we're all going to buy each other rounds afterwards. And there is no truly better feeling than being in a sports book, I think, with that physical ticket. Don't get me wrong. I like, when you get on the mobile app, it's still the same. We get the money. But I think for football, it's just a way different sort of nostalgia. And that's where memories are built. You'll never forget these memories. We had memories where we were sitting in the sports book, watching games, and you'll never forget that. You'll carry that on for years and years to go on,
2 words you never get when you're betting online is large okay. I love when they say to me, large okay. I love that. Those are 2 great words put together, man. Large and okay. That means they're giving you a lot of money, and then they want to make it big bills. It's okay with you.
It's a large okay, and then before you get that, it's a drink ticket. So they're like, do you want drink tickets? And you're like, yep. I want as many drink tickets as I can get, please.
Actually, I just talked to Steve Alford, who we know from working at Strider's here in San Diego, who moved to Vegas and now is under that Caesars umbrella. Because as you know, there was like 3 buyouts in a row. Somebody bought somebody, and then Caesars bought them. And so
that was a big move for Caesars. They obviously did the William Hill kind of transformation, so they're all changing out. Congratulations to Caesars. I think we're going to kind of see more than that, especially here in Las Vegas. I'm interested, kind of throwing it a little off point, but I'm interested to see what FanDuel and DraftKings does, because I think their platforms, no offense to any of the sports book in Las Vegas, is way better betting-wise than any other platforms that we can put here. So I'm interested to see what FanDuel and DraftKings can do here in Las Vegas. We'll see.
No, it always has been. And of course, the rest of the world has no rules. And Las Vegas has a Vegas, Nevada candlestick. And as long as you've got that, it's never going to be equal, All right, so where are we at? I'm just checking in. So we got video working. We haven't heard from Petey, so that means we got video. It's 6-0 Patriots. It's 13-0 Eagles. The Canadian game, the CFL game, that's, I think, we're going to slide over. We're going to slide over to CFL, and we're going to talk about the 4 games. We'll take a break here in a few minutes, but before we do, let's talk about the 4 games. All right, so up to, I guess, well, definitely for this next week, I won't be betting my own picks. I'll be betting Wes's picks for sure, or plays. And then what'll happen is once I have the 2 weeks of data in, but you know what? After 2 weeks, here's what you got. You might have 2 teams that played home games or 2 teams that played away games or one of each. And so either way, you really don't have a good read. But Wes, as you give me those plays, it'll start to allow me to get a better feel for, why I'm seeing the numbers I'm seeing. So let's look at Toronto, Winnipeg, Montreal, Edmonton, and Hamilton and Saskatchewan. Those are the rest of the games on the schedule. So there's Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday. Those are 2 games that we would be talking about exclusively on to be determined, right?
Yeah, it would be what we're talking on to be determined. And, there's some pieces there, that are going to create a couple wrinkles in the data. But, in the CFL, they have the twofer. They play in many occasions, they play the same team 2 weeks in a row. So we got Toronto and Winnipeg tomorrow, and they're going to play each other again the following week. So it's in Winnipeg, but then the following week it goes to Toronto. In that scenario, Winnipeg is clearly the better team. But where the spread goes from week to week, that'll be a very interesting one to see. And the other one, this Winnipeg last week against Hamilton, I think that we're probably going to see some lowered game totals in both the Hamilton game this week and in the Winnipeg game, because that was a 19-6 game. And Winnipeg and Hamilton, if they weren't playing each other, they're each putting 30 points on the board. So, looking at, again, I said I like Calgary. Looking at tomorrow, Winnipeg's going to be a play of mine for sure. And, the spreads aren't up yet. So at this point, it's difficult to give a number, but I'm going to be taking any team total Winnipeg above 25. I'm going to be taking Winnipeg for the team total in that game. And, the game of the week, the most exciting game to watch as a fan is going to be this Hamilton and Sask game. Sask had a 31-point lead at the half. They let BC back in for a backdoor cover this past week, and Hamilton scored once. Hamilton doesn't have games where they only score 1 touchdown, and this is going to be an angry team because they are coming off of a Grey Cup loss to Winnipeg, then an opener 2 years later to Winnipeg where they only scored 1 touchdown and didn't get the PAT, and now they're playing against Sask. I don't know where the spread's going to lie. I'm going to be playing Sask money line on Saturday. I think Sask is the better team. Cody Fajaro is the quarterback. He's one of the highest paid players. He might even be the highest paid player in the CFL. He's the new young gun CFL Patrick Mahomes, if you will. And so my plays for this weekend, like I just said, I'm going to be on Sask for the money line. And I'm looking at Winnipeg, and I'm looking at the game team total, anything above 25, I think is a gift on Winnipeg. I think that they probably going to have 20 on the board before the half tomorrow night.
Well, that's the other thing I talk about when people say you're crazy, you don't bet preseason. When the first time I realized how valuable my data is for preseason was when I noticed one day we're putting into totals, guys. Every single total for one of the sections was 17.5 or 17. That was it. There was no outliers. It was just, we don't know, make it 17. It was so obvious. We don't know, make it 17. Now the Canadian lines are coming out late, West, but the bottom line is they don't know.
They don't know. They weren't. Last week we saw all dogs. We saw all dogs, and 2 of those dog covers were dog wins. So yeah, they don't know. I'm interested to see where this Winnipeg and Toronto line goes, because because Winnipeg just beat Hamilton 19-6. So now you take that over to Toronto, and what does that translate to? Is it going to be a double-digit point spread? Double-digit point spread. I don't know that laying points after what we saw last week is the way that we want to go in the CFL. So it's going to be interesting to see where those lines go for the rest of the week, and then Montreal against the Edmonton Elks. Edmonton didn't look very good this past week. Montreal hasn't played. So
that's the first game. That's the first game Saturday. And so because there's 9 teams and they play 4 games, Montreal had that first bye.
Yep, and that's a game where Montreal, they have a fantastic mobile quarterback. He went to Oregon, and Montreal can score points, but that's historically not a great team. They certainly weren't a good team back in 2019. The team doesn't even resemble what that team was. So that's a game I would stay away from because, again, Edmonton didn't look very good. So how do they come back from last week? And they're going to be trying to figure it out for a little bit. But I think that this Hamilton-Sask game, that they'll have that one right for sure. And I think it's going to be very close, 2 points on either side.
All right, so when we come back from break, we're going to kind of wrap up because the Loudmouths on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network are next. We are going to talk to Wes about some more stuff for the weekend. We're going to talk to John about some stuff for the weekend. We're going to change the banner. I'm going to go up right now and change the banner. You can catch all our past winners at sportsbettingweeklylive.com. And that's the beauty, guys, of this Easy Sports Data Easy Sheet that we're going to be using this season. It's really a cheat sheet. That's all it is a cheat sheet. But you don't have to believe that we had a good summer. You don't have to trust us, like Wes said, that John came back from vacation and went 7-0. You don't have to believe that we're saying these things because they're factual. Just go watch it. We have video of most of it. And video for a couple years, and then the rest is all audio. But I think it would hold up in court. You're listening to Sports Betting Weekly. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to try again one more time on that video for To Be Determined. Saturday, August 28th, add it to your calendar. The Sports Betting Channel presents To Be Determined. Our new show starts at 8 o'clock out here in San Diego, 11 o'clock in New York, and then we're done just in time for the first game kickoffs for college football. You're going to get 4 totally different slices of sports. Blackhawk West joins us for Saturdays in Canada and some plays for the CFL game. What do you do when the Easy Sports Data is trending in opposite directions? Well, Mo's going to help us decide what to do on Something's Gotta Give. There's also Paulo's plays. Now, if you're not betting soccer, you really should be. And this guy is very, very good. Finally, there's Wake and Bake, where sports betting meets marijuana. Hey, the games start early here in Southern California. Now, 9 o'clock's a lot easier when marijuana is legal. It's like having 4 shows in one. Check it out Saturday, August 28th on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, on the Belly Up Sports Podcast Network, and on the Sports Betting Channel. I am Second Half Chaz. We are joined by Blackhawk West. John from GMF Sports Consultants may come back. He may not, because he did mention that his battery was dying on his phone. The other aspect of it, Blackhawk West, is that we've got a whole weekend ahead of us. There's a lot of things to bet on, but you always find a little time for some equine opportunities. You got any horses you're looking at this weekend?
I haven't looked at the ponies this week, although this past weekend Saratoga was pretty exciting to watch. Some big races out there, and we had a record. We had I forgot the trainer's name, and it feels horrible. It's a name I use all the time, but he had the all-time wins total for a trainer. It was pretty exciting to watch that history in the making. A lot of people would have guessed that Bob Baffert would be the one, just because he's kind of an icon in the face of the sport. But New York has been some really good racing this year. Some of the best races and best quality action has been in New York. So I'll probably be looking that way.
Yes, there were numerous $1 million races. It was just really nice to see, because I've always said when Paul and I went through the pandemic together, we recovered 2 racetracks and 3 soccer countries. The bottom line is the horse racing is only good when the horses are good. Otherwise, horse racing is ugly. It really is. But those were just a great card. And again, I got let's see here. I got a credit voucher. I hit the race 7 at Saratoga. I hit race 10 at Saratoga. So I got tickets to cash for Saturday. And what's beautiful for me, Wes, is I'm 13 minutes from early bird wagering at Del Mar. So I hop up in the morning. It's beautiful. It's right on the water. There's a river that leads into the lagoon right by the back door where you go for early bird. And, there's swans and ocean birds and people jogging. And guess what? Places like Del Mar have pretty people that jog in there. Did you ever notice the most expensive zip codes, the joggers are pretty, West? Did you ever notice that? Okay, so
and it's funny. Their shoes cost more than my house.
It's amazing, but they look good. They look good. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going in right now. I'm going into this week's easy sheet. We put out a teaser of this week's easy sheet, and it covered the first 4 games of the weekend. So that would be the Washington-New England game. Oh, no, actually covered the 2 games today. Washington-New England. So let's look what we have. All right, it said that Washington had allowed less than 9 points in the first half and 6 of 7. And the last time I looked, I don't think that they had a touchdown, that New England had a touchdown yet. So let's go to let's do that. Let's go here and go here.
No, they don't. It was 2 field goals that New England had.
Yeah. So that's a solid one that looks like it's going to continue. And what are the under-unders? That's the thing. The over-unders are right about that, right? Not for the first halves, 9.5. If you can get team totals, because it's no different than Canada, Wes. What we were talking about is when we have the early games, these preseason games, they treat them the same way as the FCS football that we talked about. You just don't see a lot of lines. All right. So what's it say for Washington in the first half? Washington normally lets up less than 7. Well, then that's what they gave up. No. Oh, okay. That was the overall, and this is the matchup. My bad. I was looking at the same game. So yeah, and that's really how it works. You say, what are they doing overall? But it doesn't matter what you're doing overall. I'll never forget who it was. It was I want to say it might have been the Vikings, but they went the first 3 games on the road. They won every one. The first 3 games at home, they lost everyone. So they looked like they were 3-3. But if you were betting that trend, you were 6-0. And guess what? 6-0, Wes, is usually better than 3-3, right?
In the NFL, I'm more concerned with what their record is against the spread than I am what their record is in the standings. At the end of the season is kind of when you do the math on the standings. But if they're going 6-0 ATS, that's my Super Bowl champion.
Yep. All right. So here's what happens now. So this data is on your phone. So it's in the palm of your hand, and it's just a cheat sheet. So it shows numbers. So it says less than or equal to 9, 6, or 7. That's their runs, or greater than or equal to 10. So that's what we're going to start looking at. We're going to look at second half. We got about 5 minutes left. We're going to look at the second half of these games, and I'm going to end up making a couple plays. So I already got New England team total over 18.5. However, you know what? I would like another field goal in the first half for that game if they're listening to me. I'm not quite sure, if they're going to give it 100%. But if you're listening to me, I would like another field goal in the first half of that game. But in the second half, what's it say? It says Washington scores points. Washington scores points. And in their last 8, it's points allowed. Oh, my goodness. That's why. In their last 8, they're 1-7. They've lost 7 of their last 8 second halves. So that's 8 games. This is the one that we were talking about. That's really 2 years of data, correct? 4 games a year.
Yeah, that's 2 years of data.
Yeah. So when you look at the second half on the road, now this is New England. New England goes over in the second half, and that's a trend that says, well, okay, you got this team says they give up greater than 20. It's greater than 20 in the second half. They give up 20 points in the last 7 out of 8 games in the second half. It's got to be 10, right? Yeah, I got my computer glasses on. It's 10 points. So, and New England goes over. So that's what I'm looking at. And oh my God, how many times? And this is the same data that allowed me to nail the final score exactly, the total in both the basketball and college football national championship games in the same season, and that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. So yeah, so that's what I'm looking at, and then for the rest of the weekend, I've got a full slate. Right, there's 4 games on tomorrow. There's 1 Canada game tomorrow, and then there are 3 NFL games tomorrow. Then there's 2 Canadian games on Saturday, right? And
Saturday,
there's another 2, 5. There's 10 Saturday games, and then Sunday afternoon. Actually, Sunday at 10 o'clock. Sunday morning. So that's a regular kickoff time for us. Carolina and Indianapolis. And I'm telling you right now, what I've said about 9 o'clock on Saturdays goes for 10 o'clock on Sundays, especially because I'm normally on doing the DC show a little later at night. And those guys, it's 3 hours ahead of me. The bottom line is it's early. It's early to get up. It says 1 o'clock for the Eastern time, but it's only 10 o'clock here. And those are the kind of games. It's going to be the Saturday morning 9 o'clock games and the Sunday morning 10 o'clock games, Wes, that are going to make Wake and Bake one of the best segments we do, because you're going to go right off of that segment and the games are going to kick off. So they'll be fresh,
Well, and I'm jealous. I would love to have 10 o'clock kickoff. I kick off at 11 o'clock here. And God, it feels, because I'm up at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, that's going to be great. Right off the Wake and Bake into kickoff.
Yeah. All right. So before we leave, let's talk about your weekend.
Weekend is CFL. We got CFL action every day. I'm going to be looking at this NFL preseason. Don't know that I'm going to be investing, but my members, they'll probably get some opinions, because they do like to play the preseason, and that's a full weekend right there. I mean, it's football season, so it's jam packed every single day, and for me, it kicks off at noon on Saturday, and it goes all the way really until 9 o'clock. There's preseason football, so I'll be advising that to any of my members on the Chicago Options Trader group that want to text me for opinions. And
check right now on the bottom of the screen. If you check right now, you can see you can bet the same action as the guys. Your intro special for the weekend is $15. So you check out the cash tickets page. Now, we need to update that because we're going to make it some more current, because, of course, it's only the second week of CFL. So we'll update that. But I definitely am looking forward to keeping track on Saturdays when we're doing Saturdays in Canada West of your win-loss record. I could not go back through the texts were from 2 years ago, so I couldn't get that far back. But I know how many winners you sent me. That's what I do know.
Yep.
All right, so that's about it. John never came back, but he had mentioned his phone was dying. But you could check out him at his Instagram, GMF_sports_consultants. Of course, when I go online, these guys' names just pop up. It's 151_sports. And of course, I am second half Chaz. You've been listening to Sports Betting Weekly, half of it on the Belly Up Sports Podcast Network, half of it live on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. So if it's 8:54 in New York, you're still watching live, and we're about to head off to hand off to the loudmouths. And I'm hoping that maybe they can play that video, but I couldn't play a video tonight, but I will get to be determined out there. And then Monday, you know what it becomes Monday? Wes is calling marijuana companies to get a sponsor. That's what I got to do Monday. Not a bad day. If that's all you got to do, that's not a bad day. All right, Wes, anything else you can add before we say goodbye?
No, always be cashing.
All right, we'll talk to you guys next week. Always be cashing.